Hello, welcome back to Running Raleigh. This time we're going to talk about Umstead Trail, in particular Loblolly Trail, which is about, the route I go is about a 4.2 mile loop, and it's not all Loblolly Trail, but it's mostly Loblolly Trail. You go across a creek a couple times, you loop around in the woods. It's a pretty good path, but then you come out on a gravel road, you go around to a small pond, and then it's up the hill, gravel path, back to the parking lot where you reach a road. So we'll take a look at that and see what the things are to see. So here you have Umstead Park. This is all Umstead Park right here in the northwestern part of Raleigh. I usually go up here to Harrison Avenue right there, going from the east. So I just take this exit right here, drive in there. You'll see a sign, and there's usually a gate here that prohibits you from going over to the cabins, which is fine. I don't really imagine this is a good place to camp, but you'll find parking here. There's usually plenty of parking. I don't usually go there on weekends. Normally during the week. I would assume it'd be busier during the week, but it's pretty good. There's space for plenty of cars. So here you got Loblolly Trail. I actually didn't know it was on Google Maps. So you start here, you go through the woods over here, and you got this dotted line here. All this is pretty much downhill till you get to the bottom of the draw here, and you cross this creek, Reedy Creek. There's another trail called Reedy Creek Trail. And you go up the hill, and this is pretty much up the hill. Then you go down a little bit over here. You can see some switchbacks, and then you'll encounter another creek, and probably about here, smaller than the one over here. This is actually a good area if you like to just play around in the water, find crayfish and frogs and stuff. So you go up, and it's pretty well wooded. It's a great peaceful spot to be. It's not too many people. It's not like Lake Johnson where you pass 20 plus people in a given 2 mile segment. But I'd say on average I pass about 4 or 5 people. So that's weekdays, of course. So then you come up here. You can either keep going if that is your plan to keep going on Loblolly Trail, or if you can just want to head back to the parking lot, go this 4 mile route. I just go back here on the gravel road, and so from here at the intersection of the trail and the gravel road down to the Reedy Creek Lake, it's all pretty much downhill this way. So then you make kind of a hairpin turn. If you're in a vehicle, it'd probably be kind of tight, but you're on foot, so there's like this grassy area, and there's a small little dock there, and the spillway goes over into another creek which flows further. There's also another bridge over there. So anyway, you head back up the hill, up this gravel road, and then you eventually meet a paved road right here. And this is where the ranger is supposed to live or something, and some other residents. And you run back on this paved road, and you eventually go back to the parking lot. And it was a fun day at Umstead Park. Now, there are definitely other trails you can do. One of these days I'll show you the route I chose for running 18 miles, but just today, just talking about this 4 mile stretch here. Right through here. Back to the parking lot. Start here. Zoom. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so doesn't cover too much of Umstead, but it is very peaceful, especially here on the water. And a lot of people, I think, stop at the water and go back. But if you just keep going, you won't meet too many people over here at all. A lot of people will be coming in from the neighborhoods over here along this gravel road. A lot of cyclists like to use that road. Just, it's wide open. I bet you could probably squeeze, 2 cars side by side on it. It's not ideal for running because it's kind of hard. If your goal is to get like a soft surface, it's not ideal for soft surfaces. See, here's the parking lot. Wow, this must have been a weekend. Whoa, extremely busy. I've never ever seen it a quarter this filled. But I usually park right there in the corner and go off that way to Loblolly Trail. This direction is east. This direction is north, west. This is where the shelter is over there. That's a different set of trails over that way. Here you can see what is probably during the springtime, because you got a lot of rainwater here and stuff's blooming. But I would assume this is probably on the old Company Mill trail or something like that. But that's got a lot of scenic places on it. And each place you cross a creek, you'll usually have a bridge, what you could call a bridge, I guess. Sometimes it's just like pieces of wood thrown across, but it's usually stable. Here you see a picture of the little lake, Reedy Creek Lake, I guess it is. And it looks like here it's about morning time because you got this shadow here. I've never seen that before. So here's a bench. There's usually over on this side, there's a information kind of you are here kind of map thing. And here's that little dock. I've seen a lot of people fishing out there. And then over this way there's a bridge that goes across the spillway. Alright, now it's time for the verse in context. It's a different day, as you can see, but I have to shoot these things at time intervals, which you probably understand. I thought we'd take a look at the phrase, or the sentence, the verse actually, Jesus wept. I've been thinking a lot about that verse this week. John 11:35. And I have not yet read it in context because I want to get my actual reaction. Okay. A certain man was sick named Lazarus. Of course, I see when I wonder about like the verse in context. I know the story. It's Lazarus, his 2 sisters. Jesus goes to his tomb. Lazarus had already died, and it was a couple days later because Jesus wanted to stay with the people he's with, and his disciples are like, "No, Lord, don't tarry." But I just been thinking about that verse this week and have not yet looked it up. Okay, there's the verse. John 11:35, Jesus wept. 2 words, 3 syllables in English. Verse 34 says, "And said, Where have ye laid him?" That was Jesus speaking. "They said unto him, Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, "Behold how he loved him." They're like, wow, he must really love this guy. And some of them said, "Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus saith unto her, said I not unto thee that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? Just wait, you'll see. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot in grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto him, Loose him and let him go. You can see, right before he does this miracle, he's saying to the Lord, thank you for this opportunity, pretty much, to show these people who I am. So Jesus had already been through there before. He knew the family well. And when Jesus heard of that, this is skipping through, not reading verbatim, just skipping through, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now, I just realized this. Now, when he says this sickness is not unto death, I mean, I'm sure I've heard this before, but like reiterating it in my mind, I haven't heard of a sermon preached on this in a while. But the sickness is not unto death. He did die, right? But what he meant probably was this sickness is not unto spiritual death, but this sickness is for the glory of God, that the Son of Man might be glorified thereby. So he's saying that this sickness is going to be used by God to magnify and glorify his himself. Okay. Thank you, Lord, for that Bible passage. Okie dokie. Now I'd like to talk about the runner's tip for this week. It's kind of funny. It's not really anything that has to do with nutrition or, running mechanics or anything. It's more to do with courtesy as a runner. So when I run, I tend to step lightly and quietly. So coming up behind somebody, they're not always aware of my presence until I'm like right there at their peripheral vision, and they're like, whoa. I mean, I've scared so many people. I've scared walkers, runners, cyclists, dogs. Fortunately, the dogs don't cuss at me, but there's 1 out of 2 people that I scare, they let fly. It's interesting to say the least, but so the tip is, if you're coming up behind somebody, I usually do a scuff step. I'm running along, and then I'll kind of drag my foot a little bit, and then that kind of gives them an audio cue. I call it an audio cue, that your presence is to be known, right? So if you see them turn their head, and then kind of get you in the peripheral, as they turn back, then you're good. Go ahead and pass them. Or you can do a stomp step. You can be running around, just go boom, 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 boom with both feet. I don't really like that because it's kind of sloppy. I like the scuff step. But it's kind of nuanced. But most people don't run quietly, so you're good. Just make sure that people know where you are. And dogs too. They need to know where you are too, because I've snuck behind dogs, and they just they jump back and they're all scared. I saw a dog just whole body just shake. So people, they also run with their earbuds in, and so you need to be aware of that. And especially when it's dark, people are less in tune with what's around them, but they should be, for Pete's sake. So just be courteous. Don't sneak up behind people, even if you don't mean to. They may, in that instant that they, shout out profanity, they may say, wow, you snuck up behind me, right? Yeah, sorry about that. So one story about how this issue took shape. I was running, it was at Lake Johnson, and it was getting kind of dark, so there were too many people out there, but it was just, I was just running along, downhill. This guy pedals real fast on a bike, passes me going really fast downhill. I'm like, okay, you know, he's on a bike, he's using gravity, piece of cake, if I can do that. So then he goes off and then continues uphill. I lose sight of him, but apparently he goes around, stops at the top of the hill. I go around and you know, catch up to him. He's got his earbuds in, his helmet on. He's just, you know, doing his thing. He parks his bike right in the middle of the path. It's a paved path, but he's right in the middle of it. And he gets off to take a drink of his water on the left side of the bike. So I just pass him on the right side of the bike. You know, right, like, because I mean, there's actually a wall, like an earth kind of barrier wall that's holding back, you know, part of the hill. So I mean, it's the wall, me, bike, him, woods. So I just right in front of, like, maybe a foot away from his nose, and he just goes beep. So if you don't want to be caught up in that situation, just you know, you can even clap. I've done that before too. Just clap, and they'll know you're there. So runner's tip. Boom. Okay, well, that is part of Umstead Park, the Loblolly portion. There are harder places you can go that are steeper, more rocky, more difficult to run. But probably I've run them, but it's probably funner to hike those kind of things. You're not worrying about, you know, twisting your ankle, but you know, you're out there with some people just kind of enjoying God's nature, and yeah, so hopefully I'll bring more videos about different places to run in Raleigh.
Come along, let us put it up together. Come along, be it fair or stormy weather, with the hills of home before us and the park below the heather. Let us sing in happy chorus. Come along, come along.